Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear student, Assalamu alaikum. And today, as you can see, we are going to talk about your projects and presentations in both of these two courses, Pedagogical Approaches for Translation and Interpretation and Translation and Cultural Studies. Uh, as you know, and I have told you that you have two things to do in this course, Pedagogical Approaches for Translation and Interpretation. Number one is teaching assignment, which is an individual work. Number two is development of course outlines, which is a group activity. So let's talk about the first thing, which is teaching assignment first. Teaching assignment and the steps. Step number one, every student shall be sent to one of the translation teacher in the department, and I will allocate you the teachers and you will go to the teacher. This is the first step. Second step is students shall meet the concerned teacher for allocation of the topic to be taught in the class. This is between the student and the teacher, concerned teacher. So I have no concern about this thing. B is setting date, time, and duration of the class with the teacher. So these A and B are related to the student and the concerned teacher. They will decide the topic or the text to be taught, whatever the teacher allocates or the student suggests and teacher accepts, and then they also decide the date, day, time, and duration of the class. Here I want to clarify that when we meet inshallah on Tuesday, we shall be deciding the day of your presentation, which I shall talk after little time. Step number three, the students shall teach the allocated topic in the class, of course, the actual teaching in the class, and the concerned teacher shall evaluate the teaching and give his or her report and marks to me. And there is a uh, format for that performer, actually developed performer for this purpose, and this performer shall be given to the teacher, and teacher shall evaluate your actual teaching inside the classroom and give his or her evaluation and report with, of course, marks given by him or her. Now these are the parameters for evaluation. When you go to the class for teaching, the assessment shall be made in the light of these parameters. So be attentive to these parameters and keep these parameters in your mind when you prepare for teaching. Introduction of the topic or the text or whatever that you are going to teach. Appropriate voice. Appropriate voice, I think it's very much clear. If you are standing in front of the class and your voice is not clear and the students cannot hear you properly or can hear you properly, this will be another parameter. Accent and pronunciation, if your voice is good but your pronunciation is not clear, your pronunciation is not correct, or is not understood by your student at that time, uh, this would be another parameter. Using accurate and appropriate spelling and written language. If you are using whiteboard and of course you are writing, so the spellings or the written language, the structure of the language, how was the structure of the language, and etc., these things shall also be observed and you shall be evaluated in the light of this parameter as well. And speed as per pace of the students, this is very important. If you are teaching, you are well prepared and everything is good, but you are so fast that the students cannot cope with your pace. So your concerned teacher shall evaluate and also observe this aspect as well. Shift from one topic to another and at an appropriate time, from one thing to other an appropriate time, if the thing is clear, and then you shift to the next and so on. Mastery of content. demonstrates required subject knowledge content of that particular lesson. Have you prepared the lesson perfectly, with keeping in mind all the aspects, and so appropriate selection of teaching aids. You want to use some audiovisual aids, you want to use something for your teaching, so what are the appropriate, but there are a list of audiovisual aids. Not every aid is relevant to all kind of topic that are taught in translation class. Using resources at proper time. Resources means, maybe you have some extra material, you have your time is also resource, your energy is also resource, and class management is also resource. So using all these resources at proper time and in a proper way. Monitoring students' understanding and anticipating problems with student learning. So are you monitoring the students if getting feedback? Creating a positive learner-centered classroom where the students are focused, they are focusing on their learning parameter. Using learner-centered methodologies, another related to the previous one parameter. Encouraging questioning and facilitating skills. Class control and discipline, very important. And your confidence, of course, your confidence. Teacher mean not your teacher there, but you will be the teacher, so your confidence while you are teaching that lesson. Maximizing time for each task. So maximizing time means utilizing time in an effective way for each task. This is another parameter. Using time in an effective and appropriate manner to focus on learning. Teacher's personality. Dresses professionally, displays professional attitude, conduct, cleanliness, pleasant personality, and so on and so forth. Step number 5. Each student shall present in the form of PPT. You have gone to the teacher, you have taught your lesson there, now you come to your class here, in my class. So in step number 5, every student shall present PPT, his or her teaching assignment experience in my class. Step number 6, these presentations shall be evaluated by me, of course, when you present in my class. Uh, just a minute, I'm just facing a problem. There is a hurdle. Anyways, after this, there shall be some, yeah. So suggested format for PPT presentation, your PPT presentation in the class will be introduce the taught class, date, time, duration, and topic, etc. These are just suggestions. You can get benefit from this suggestion, or you can have your own ideas. Introduce your lesson plan, introduce your adopted teaching method, etc. Your opinion about the students and their learning, problems you faced and solutions you found for them. Uh, Here, problems you faced and solutions you found for them. I would like to especially mention that you should also tell us what did you learn in this teaching experience. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, what did you learn? And mind you, learning comprises negative and positive aspects. So did you learn some negative things? Did you discover your personality during this teaching? What positive things you learned? Maybe you learn how to control your voice. Maybe you learn how to control different difficult questions, and lot of things. You will feel that when you come back, you tell us this in your presentation because you want to get good marks in this activity. So let's move on to the second assignment. or the second project in the pedagogical approaches for translation and interpretation. And the project is development of course outlines, a group activity, as I have told you earlier. So the step number one is selection of a course from, it's not from, selection of a course from translation or interpretation. Uh, in the area of translation, there are courses. In the area of interpretation, there are different courses. In the area of translation, we have courses based on text types like literary translation, religious translation, medical translation, media translation, history of translation, and also basic course of translation theories. Maybe you find here, or you don't find with different name, maybe approaches to translation, and so on and so forth. The second part is interpretation. We have also many kinds of interpretation: consecutive interpretation, escort interpretation, simultaneous interpretation, conference interpretation, and you perhaps recall what you have learned in the courses of interpretations in your provisional year. So this can be discussed further in the class if you have any problem in the selection of a course from these two major areas. Step number two is preparation of the course outlines with the following necessary elements. So these elements are necessary, essential. I would be, these should be the components. These are the components actually of the course outline that you people are going to develop. A is course title. There must be a clear course title. Also credit hours, per week credit hours, teaching credit hours, and course code. You also decide a course code for the course that you are going to develop. And B, learning objectives. In the beginning, you have to, of course, decide what learning outcomes you want for your students to achieve. Number C is the contents of the course. Basically, these are topics of the courses, but when we say content, we are also talking about the sequence, logical sequence. From what is the best logical sequence for the course that you are going to develop? From the very beginning, from the historical background. These are not necessary things that I'm saying right now, but these are just suggestions from the basic terminologies, and then you move forward. D, textbooks. You write down the textbooks that you think are good for teaching this course, or maybe some recommended books, or maybe some material for the content. When we say material, when you come to the material, here we have, of course, chapters from the books, or the books, complete books, or a book, or we can also take some of the articles from different sources. The sources of internet resources can also be mentioned here. Maybe some videos, maybe some audios, some lectures here and there, the material for the content that you have given previously in number C. Number E is a teaching method. You also write down what teaching method or methods that are suitable for teaching this course as a whole, or some of the topics. You can also give the details that this topic should be taught according to this teaching method or methods, or that topic should be taught according to another teaching method, etc. uh, we should teach who should teach this course. So the qualification experience, don't mention the names, any name, but you describe the person who should teach this course. It's his or her qualification or his or her experience. G is the method for the assessment of students learning. uh, how the students learning should be assessed. This is actually about the exam, but the concept of exam is very limited. When we say exam, we most of the time mean by exam is sit-in exam, but the assessment is wider than the sit-in examination. So you can suggest different ways of assessing the students' learning. Number H, lesson for only one topic taken from the course that you should develop. You see, in the content part, you would be suggesting topics, lot of topics, maybe 10, maybe 15, but you will select only one topic out of these topics or from the content, and prepare lesson plan for that selected topic to be taught. This is very, very important, and I would also remind you what we have learned during the lecture. I mean, during the article that we discussed in the previous class. And this is a reminder. Before starting your work, refresh these things that you have learned in these topics from the article. Go back to reread them, refresh your mind about the defining instructional objectives, preparation of material contents, teaching methods and techniques, selection of teachers who should teach that course, and so developing lesson plan that I have asked you just now. Assessment also, and evaluation. Forget the evaluation, because evaluation is not, we don't evaluate when we prepare the course outline. We evaluate the this when we complete the teaching cycle. Actually, this is when we complete this cycle till the assessment. We start evaluation from defining from the objectives, and we evaluate what happened during the whole process. So you do not take into account this part, but of course the remaining parts are very important, and for practically very important for the preparation of development of course outline. I hope this is very clear right now. Anyway, we have face-to-face meeting, and we can discuss these things more. Uh, I think it's step left. I'm sorry. PPT presentation in the class. Uh, there shall be a PPT presentation in the class. Each group member shall participate in the presentation. Same way. So you will come back with the preparation of the course outline, with the development of the course outline, and present orally in the class, but it is PPT based presentation. An important note on PPT is, apart from other things, you must talk about the resources that you use for the preparation of the course outlines, problems you faced, and the solutions that you brought somewhere uh, from your mind, from out of your consultation, and so on. So the presentation is very important for your. We shall decide the date when we meet on Tuesday. Step 4, provision of the written course outline, not the PPT. So will be one from female, one from male, one only. Provision of the written course outline in this format, a hard copy and a soft copy. And for the soft copy, remember, I need Word and PDF. So one of your group member shall email me the soft copy in Word format and PDF format. And I hope it is now finished and we can go to the next. Okay, so translation and cultural studies, which is individual activity. Here, the nature of the project is like this: application of a theory. We have in this chapter, cultural term, we have studied these uh, dimensions of theoretical uh, framework. Translation as rewriting, also translation and gender, and postcolonial translation theory, and other perspectives on power and ideology. So the main uh, activity here is that you select one of the aspect of any theory or a theory and apply on a text. The focus of your work shall remain on these things: analysis of power, ideology, and agenda. This slide is very important for you. The focus of your work, of your research, of your access activity should remain on analysis of power, ideology, and agenda. uh, Whether you take translation as rewriting, or you take translation and gender, or you select translate postcolonial translation theory, or you select any other aspect related to translation as politics and power and ideology and agenda and so on. The steps. Step number one is selection of translated text having signs of power, ideology, or agenda. Selection of translated text having signs of power, ideology, or agenda. And you can, select among these three languages: Arabic into English, or English into Arabic, or Arabic into Urdu, or Urdu into Arabic, or Urdu into English. So you have these options. After that, which is step number two, application of any aspect of one of the taught theories. Number three, write an article on that. Number four, PPT presentation in the classroom. Number five, provision of soft copy. Only soft copy. I'm not asking here the hard copy, but the soft copy, which is in the format of Word and PDF. For this project, I have given you all the steps altogether. So keep these steps in your mind and let's move forward. Uh, for the kind of demo, for the clarification of this work, a quick example I think should be very suitable here. But this quick example is related to the socio-political ideology from English into Arabic translation. You see, I have emphasized on this: analysis of power, ideology, and analysis. Now, an agenda. And now see this example. This is, of course, a news item, and we can read this: Iraq's political crisis disheartens the middle class. Violence has begun to rise again. The number of civilians killed in Iraq jumped 50% from March to April, according to the government statistics. On May 10th, nearly 100 people died in a day of bombings and shooting that were the worst in Iraq since last year. A perplexing string of assassinations of Sunni Arab clerics has led officials to wonder whether Al-Qaeda in Iraq insurgents or Shiite militants might be involved. Sources here: Los Angeles Times newspaper. And we focus here on only three elements: middle class, and Sunni Arab clerics, and Shiite militants. And we see how this news item was translated, and how especially these three things were translated into Arabic. We see the Iraqis middle class. When we say the Iraqis middle class, and it was translated as Al-Iraqiyin, and the word middle class was not translated. And Sunni Arab clerics, and this was translated as Rijaluddin. Shiite militants, and it was translated as Al-Malishiyat Al-Ukhra. So we can discuss them. The word middle class was not translated into Arabic. Here we can guess the ideology of the translator. Maybe his social ideology represents an impact on his translation. He may live in a society in which there is no social strata, unlike in the Iraqi society where people are divided as per social classes. I think this guess is a partial guess. We can also guess that in this translation there is an agenda, because the translator does not want to give that the middle class only is disheartened. The translator or the agency which the client that is paying him the money, or the whole the ideology of that community, or the ideology of that social group, which of course is behind this the whole translation work, wants to create that image. So when we say the middle class, we say الطبقة المتوسطة للعراقيين, or we say the al-Iraqiyin, a lot of difference. We are talking about a certain class in Iraq. If we translate it as middle class, Iraqi middle class, but when we say al-Iraqiyin only, that means the whole Iraqi population. So I think we can also visualize the impact, the perception that is created in the minds of the reader. Sunni Arab clerics, it was translated as Rijaluddin, very general. When we say Rijaluddin, it means all the clerics, whether they belong to even to Muslims, or maybe they and the Muslim sects, different sects, and non-Muslim, but they are maybe Christians or maybe Jews. Everyone is included in Rijaluddin. Since it may refer to many religious sects. The translator did not identify to which religious sect those Arab clerics belong. Any ideology of power, for sure, there is an ideology behind this, because if he says Rijaluddin min Ahli Sunnah, for example, translating Sunni Arab clerics, this would create a kind of worry and kind of different impression among the readers, Iraqi readers, and of course the enmity among the other people, among between the Sunnis and the Shia and other Islamic sects may rise, because there is another element in this news item. Shiite militants, Militiat al-Ukhra. So he just omitted the translation of Shiite, which is al-Militiat al-Shi'iyya. So the translation did not transfer the meaning of the word Shiite into Arabic thoroughly. The most possible reason behind this translation is that Iraqi community encompasses two major sects, Sunnis and Shiites, who witnessed several cultural and religious clashes after US invasion. I think this is the reason for which the translator did not translate previously the Sunni Arab clerics, and here again the Shiite militants, because that in his mind, or the people whom he represented or is influenced by, or the ideology that he had carried, did not allow him to translate these elements into Arabic. So with this application, we can come to the format for writing an article. Your article may comprise, beg pardon, may contain these parts. Introduction. In the introduction, a brief introduction of work with reference to the theory or part of the theory that you have selected. Brief introduction of the selected ST&TT. Brief introduction of the original author and the translator. This can be discussed under this introduction. And the second part would be like this: analysis. Don't write analysis. You can choose other good words for the title, but the work is this: analysis. Analyze example, at least 3 examples from the text. The text should not be longer. I think 1 page or 2 paragraph or 3 paragraph or the whole book. But what I need is at least you analyze 3 example in a very good way. And I think you must ask me when we meet how to give a good analysis of the selected example. Part number three can be conclusion or should be conclusion, actually, because introduction and conclusion are essential part of any article. And number 4, references. Keep the references, of course, intact in the footnote. You will write the references in the footnote according to this arrangement. name of the author first, comma, within the bracket year of publication, and then title of the book or article or chapter from the book, etc., and then comma, city or country, and then colon and name of the publisher, comma, and page number, full stop. In the footnote, this is, you are giving references here. For websites, name of the document, article, or book, anything, or organization, and then comma and URL address, and then the date of accessing. When did you access this book or that article or that source, and you quote the date. At the end, you must provide a list of references that you have used inside the article, and the list is should be alphabetically arranged as per mentioned arrangement. Is number 4, author, year of publication, title of the book, article, chapter, city, country, name of the publisher. Of course, in the list of the references, you will not write the page number because they are just the titles. So you shall be only doing this. So, of course, this is just for you people, that you write down your questions or queries that you may have related to the assignments, in pedagogical approaches for T and I, and writing an article and giving a presentation inside the classroom in translation and cultural studies. I'm sorry for making I fumbled a little bit more than the previous, and anyways, the main content has been conveyed, and see you inshallah tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa